My name is Georgina Boama.
I am Nana Osei Sapo.
I am Mary H.
I'm Yafu Joseph Henry. We are Team WELLFED.
According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, a third of all food produced globally is lost, accounting for $1 trillion. This leads to the release of 150 teragrams of methane gas annually, equivalent to 10 billion 15 kilogram domestic gas cylinders, contributing to global warming. Ghana has about 30 million individuals in the country, but every year, 35% of food produced goes to waste. Farmers put in effort and investment into their farmlands, yet their produce perish due to lack of ready markets, processing units, and preservation units. Nkrumah, which is a rural community in Ghana with a population of about 15,000 farmers, was once the nation's major supplier of fresh tomatoes. But the community now contributes to methane and carbon dioxide emissions as a result of excessive spoilage of their farm produce, especially tomatoes. Due to this rapid spoilage, traders and consumers have diverted their attention from the country to purchasing imported tomatoes from Burkina Faso, which is a neighboring country of Ghana. This is drastically crippling the local agricultural economy. An extensive needs assessment revealed that farmers had a problem with the quality of their yield as a result of susceptible seed varieties, poor and outdated farming practices, and lack a stable market. It is also worth noting that ensuring high quality tomatoes is the only way to pique the interest of traders and consumers once again. And hence, there is a need to train the farmers in appropriate farming practices to ensure strong and healthier foods, whilst enhancing their understanding of what modern farming and business entails. There is also the need to provide efficient and effective storage systems to prolong the shelf life of tomatoes.
This inspired our solution. This inspired our solution, WELLFED. WELLFED is a proposed business enterprise committed to people, the planet, and prosperity. This tackles post-harvest losses and food wastage. The WELLFED business model is a tripartite service delivery avenue covering the following models: contemporary education on green farming methods, tomato preservation service using zero-emission cooling chamber, and Connect, a farmer-to-buyer service. Our unit ensures that farmers are supported with some inputs and resources like seed varieties and weather reports to prepare farmers for farming season. Ready market is ensured as we act as middlemen, connecting farmers to tomato traders, consumers, and subsequently tomato processing companies to provide a ready market. Farmers are also provided with storage services to preserve harvested tomatoes for 20 to 30 days. This reduces environmental footprint by controlling methane and carbon dioxide emissions from increased food spoilage by the use of green storage technology. This provides an environmentally friendly and cost-effective approach to farming for smallholder farmers in rural communities. Our farmers are also trained on contemporary and modern farming methods to ensure that they are up to date with information and knowledge on trends in farming. This includes, but are not limited to, farm business management, sustainable agricultural practices, post-harvest management.
When it comes to innovation, the unit has a special feature. It has the solar panel, the raised water tank, sensors, and automatic watering pump. This will maintain a steady humidity and transport and temperature. As compared to the traditional preservation method, the unit will store the unit will increase the storage period from 5 days to 20 days. It reduces the carbon emission and it is eco-friendly. It also increases the income of farmers.
Our target market will be the smallholder farmers across the country. Traders, second cycle institutions, large-scale food vendors, restaurants, and consumers will serve as available market for farmers. With an available market size of 15,000 farmers, in 2 communities. Our revenue sources will be from 1, storage solutions for farmers. We will charge 17 cents daily per crate, accruing to $3,060 annually. Arrangements will be made with farmers on payment solutions. Sales of farm produce. We will act as middlemen, connecting farmers to large corporations and institutions, such as schools, hotels, restaurants, among others, generating some revenue from this. Upon recovering the cost of our first model, we will transfer the unit to the community leaders, and subsequent profits will be invested into building more models. We also tackle the Sustainable Development Goals 1, 2, 8, 10, 12, and 13 by reducing post-harvest losses that plague the tomato supply chain and improving farmer income. We tackle poverty and reduce hunger. The improved job and income prospects for smallholder farmers and the many women that dominate the wholesale and retail section leads to economic growth and reduces inequality. We reduce post-harvest losses and the resulting carbon emissions, leading to responsible consumption and climate action. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Is that the end? Okay, thank you. Great. So now we'll turn it over to the judges to pose questions that they have. Just so you know, that we're able to see your Peaks project submission as well as your original first round pre-recorded pitch. So they have that as a context as well. So judges, I don't know who wants to go first. Turn it over to you.
Sure, I'll kick this off. Team WELLFED, thank you very much for your work on this, your presentation. Congratulations on your extraordinary effort. Would you describe a little bit more your plans for the storage container system? You show it, you talk about it as a prototype, and you'll be able to charge 17 cents per day, I think, per unit. Could you talk a little bit more about that and the development process and the estimated costs of these prototypes?
Okay, so our unit is able to store 25 kilogram crates of tomatoes at full capacity. And so with 2 units, we're able to store 50 of the 25 kilogram crates. And so when we charge 17 cents for 1 crate, we generate $8.5 daily for full capacity storage. And yearly, we are able to generate $3,060 at full capacity storage.
Super, thank you.
If I may ask a question, I'm curious. You mentioned that you're trying to help the farmers deal with competition with tomatoes imported from Burkina Faso. And I'm just curious, how come tomatoes from Burkina Faso are not also subject to spoilage, damage in transportation, and why are they cheaper than the local tomatoes?
Okay, so in Burkina Faso, they don't use the same varieties we use here in Ghana. And they also have a different system of production. And they've even employed genetically modified seeds on a very large scale in the country. So that is how come they are able to supply tomatoes that are way more robust than what we produce here in Ghana. Also, I'd like to add that our farming seasons are 3. There are 3 major farming seasons. So if tomatoes are not stored at a point in the year, there are no tomatoes produced in Ghana. And so our storing the tomatoes will ensure that the tomatoes are stored and then are available throughout the year.
If I may ask a question, you seem to emphasize tomato, but there are so many other produce that are also subject to spoilage, like pepper, like pineapples, like mangoes. Your storage facilities, do they only work for tomatoes? That's the first question. And then the second question is, what is the differentiator? It's just building a storage. What exactly is the innovation in that?
So for your first question, tomatoes are not, our storage system cannot only store tomatoes, can so many other crops as well. But tomatoes are the most widely consumed produce in Ghana, and they're also the most perishable here in Ghana. So that's how come we are concentrating on that particular produce for starters. And then in the community that we first identified also, there are major growers of tomatoes. So that's like a need we are meeting directly for those particular farmers in that community. The second question, please can you repeat it?
How is this differentiated? How it's just building storage. So where is the innovation in it? I mean, it's building the storage, or maybe I'm missing something.
Okay, so in Ghana here, we haven't identified any such system. And so our unit is the first of its kind in Ghana here. And also we are identifying and we are solving the problem from the roots, because we were able to identify from our extensive needs assessments that the farmers didn't have a problem with the quantity, but also the quality of their yield. And so we are educating our farmers on various ways to ensure that the quality of the tomatoes we are going to store is high. And also we are working on a prototype to bring about a mobile unit. And that's what we showed in our slide, something that can be sold to households and be commercialized, and even to farmers. And so at a certain point, they can store their own produce without bringing it to us as a group or as a business model.
Okay.
Maybe. Okay, go ahead, Branky.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. The first one is that I look at the prototype you have, and I'm concerned about theft, because there's no way you secure those tomatoes. That's one. Please, if you can explain that. And then secondly, I wanted to be sure, I didn't see anything around your value proposition. So if from Burkina Faso, they are using genetically modified tomatoes and yours is organic, how come we are not hearing the bells ringing around this so that the ordinary person in Ghana will know the difference? Thank you.
Okay, so regarding the genetically modified issue, there are some of those seeds here on the Ghanaian market, which were provided initially by the government, but the farmers don't readily embrace such a different seed. So for them, if you want to reach out to a group like that, something that they are conversant with, what we must work with. So our work is to ensure that whatever they are producing is still quality. That's how we'll be giving them the training on appropriate farming practices, and then the appropriate quantities of the chemicals they have to be applying on the farm and other things. And about the security, the system is going to be housed in it's like we have our own center where we have a wall, what do you call it, a fence system. So we are the only ones who have access to the tomatoes. We are the ones who interact with the farmers, collect their produce and store, and then when they need to get it, we give back to them. So the system is housed. It's not just in open space.
Thank you. It's Haniel. Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. I just have a question around, if I understand well, in fact, you are in a win-win model with the farmers. And can you explain a little bit more the business model from the farmer's point of view? What are the assumptions for this model to be relevant for the farmers? For example, what is the level of losses, of target losses that you are aiming at, etc.?
Can you repeat your question?
Yes. in fact, WELLFED is a win-win model with the farmers.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So can you explain a little bit more the business model from the farmer's point of view and how this business model is relevant for the farmers?
So farmers harvest, and at the end of every farming season, there's a flood or there's a lot of tomatoes on the market because they all harvest at a certain time. So if farmer one is harvesting, farmer two is harvesting, and so there's a lot of tomatoes on the market. When that happens, they are unable to sell all of their produce, and so the ones that are left behind are left on the farms to rot, and that is about 50% of the tomatoes they harvest. And so we are storing their tomatoes for them for a period of 20 to 30 days. Between that time, tomatoes would become scarce, or most tomatoes would have gone off the market. And so they can sell these tomatoes even at a higher price than they would have sold at the end of their farming season. And so as we do this, we eliminate post-harvest losses, which is a huge problem to the farmers, and improve their profits.
Okay, and secondly, we also hope to increase their income because when we take the cost of a crate, it's about 700 cedis, and they loosen all of this amount. It was a big loss. Taking the charge we are making of 17 cents, which is in conversion to our currency about 1 cedi, and looking at farmers on average spending about 400 cedis to get this crate, storing with us at a cost of 4 cedis every day and 120 cedis every month, they would still make a profit of about 180 Ghana cedis. And such an increased profit would result in higher incomes, and these farmers stand to get higher profit with our model.
Okay.
Hi.
Thank you very much. If I could just ask a quick question related to your business model and what you just said. So I wanted to understand a little bit more your business model in terms of what your costs are. So if you're charging 17 cents, so how much does that 17 cents cost? What is your cost? Like when you build one of those storage facilities, how much does that cost, and how many farmers paying 17 cents would you need over how long to recover that cost? That's just one thing to just get a bit more information on. And the second thing is, for poor farmers, do they have money? Do you think they will have money to be paying daily before they sell? So the concern I have is whether if these are farmers who earn as they sell, will they have, so during that period where they haven't sold, will they have the money to be paying you? Is there a reason why you choose a daily? Or perhaps, for example, what if they pay you after they have sold for the days they have used? Just to understand your thinking around that model, around what your own costs are, so that we understand the 17 and how you expect not how, like, I'm not challenging the assumption, but the manner in which you expect the farmers to pay. Do you think they have money in their pockets that will be enough to be paying you daily on an ongoing basis? Or maybe, it's after they've sold, they will then have money or something like that?
Okay, so we also have payment methods that we would like to put in place for these special farmers. One of the ideas we brought on board was that we could get into certain agreements with them so that the farm produce would be stored with us. And even though they do not have ready cash, since we are going to be working hand in hand with them in marketing these produce, we would subsidize it and use these profits to also cater for the cost of the storage. So it's a win-win from both sides, because these produce would have gone to waste and they would have lost everything. They wouldn't have made that profit at all. And as part of our business model, we would be connecting them and marketing it. So if we work with them hand in hand, we make profit. Also, recovering
the cost on our units will take over a year, since converting the $3,000 and some cents we are making in a year to cedis will give us 17,295 Ghana cedis. And the cost of producing the first unit is 20,000 Ghana cedis. And so we'll be able to recover the cost on our first model in a year and a half, roughly.
Amini, did you have
Hi. Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Very, very good. And all the time that you've put into to put everything together. I have two questions. One is, you mentioned that one of your revenue, the storage is one of the revenue line items that we've discussed quite extensively, but you also mentioned sales from farm produce. I wanted to just get a sense of that, and what will you be selling from the farm produce? And then the second question, that there was a question about cost. How much time? Well, I guess time, if you convert that to money and actual money, have you put into this this endeavor?
Okay, so we will act as middlemen, connecting the farmers to buyers. And in doing that, we take some percentage of the profits gained. As the produce are stored for longer periods of time, the tomato becomes scarce. And so the prices of the tomatoes in the market increases. And so the longer it is stored, the more expensive it becomes on the market. And so when we sell it after storage for some period of time, we make additional profits. And so that is the revenue stream when it comes to selling the produce. And we've invested over a year and a half into this project. We've done a lot of research, visited the communities to conduct needs assessments, spoken to community leaders, done a lot of work, and we've invested a lot of time into it. And the previous judge asked the cost we invested in, said over 20,000 in construction and in training farmers, supplying them with some inputs. We've invested a lot of time and money into this project.
And I'd like to chip in that the last point on the subsidizing of the amounts that the farmers will pay when they do not have ready cash. We also got it directly from the farmers during our last visit to Nkrumah during our interactive sessions with them. So we have indeed invested a lot of time into this project.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. But can I ask for a quick clarification on the last comment? Can you just clarify what it was you learned from talking to the farmers about the payment? I didn't get that. From talking to them, there was something you learned about that payment structure.
So on that day, we spoke to them on many issues, and we got to the point where we started asking them about different organizations they've tried working with. And they kept on complaining about how they were going to pay them. It was always a problem. And they said one time that the farmers liked to work with some of these organizations was when one organization came up with the idea of using the produce to subsidize the cost directly. So this farmer was telling us that if they were going to give them, let's say, seeds, instead of making them pay for the seeds directly, they give them the seeds, wait for the period of harvesting. And then as the produce is being harvested, some will be given to these organizations for them to market it, make profits on it, and then also share the cost with them. Thank you.
And also during our interactions, some also suggested that we work on a subscription fee, so it can be weekly subscription. So, but we made mention of the daily fee with respect to the fact that sometimes the farmers are not able to sell all their produce that day, or the buyers who are supposed to come for the produce were not able to come due to transportation issues. So in that sense, the farmer will come and store the produce just for that day, and when the buyer comes the following day, the buyer comes for the crates from our storage units in order for the produce not to go bad. So we also had plans for subscription models.